I guess Hugo is resuming his normal position. Anyway, let's get on with today's video, which is meal ideas for weight loss. And I want to preface this with the fact that this video is exactly what the title says. It is meal ideas. These are some of my favorite recipes that I used to eat when I was losing weight, and I still eat on the regular now. Videos really here just to be a little bit of inspiration for you. Because as I've mentioned in many videos on my channel, if you want to lose body fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And what a calorie deficit is going to be different for everyone. Therefore, the amount of food and drink that you're going to be consuming is going to be different. And not only that, but also the way of eating is going to be completely different too. I've got tons of videos on this, so I'm not going to really go into too much detail on this video, but I just want you to be aware that this really is just to give you a little bit of inspiration, give you some ideas if you're just stuck in the same routine, but also give you some things to think about if you are in a calorie deficit that might apply to you. It's really important to know that a calorie deficit is individual to everybody, and so is the way that you eat. So not only how many calories you're going to consume is individual, but also the way in which you do that is going to be important too. For example, are you someone who likes to graze all day, or do you like to have 3 square meals or 2 larger meals and a couple of snacks? Do you find you're hungrier at specific times of the day, and if you don't eat at those times, then potentially later on you end up feeling even hungrier and maybe overeating? Are you eating foods that you enjoy still? That's always really, really important too. You've got to be able to enjoy your food. It's one of the best things in life. So those are just some things that I want you to take into consideration when you're watching this video. But anyway, onwards with the day. We're going to start with breakfast, and something that's really important when you're in a calorie deficit is managing hunger, because we would expect to see a little bit of hunger, but obviously we want to minimize that as much as possible. And one great way of doing this is thinking about what you're eating rather than how much you're eating. The 3 things are really useful in this regard. We've got protein, fats, and fiber. And if you can get all 3 of those into a meal, then you're on to a winner. So with breakfast, that is exactly what we're gonna do. Okay, so obviously this breakfast is essentially fruit and yogurt, but I'm gonna go for mango today because it's a little bit different, it's a bit more of a spring vibe. And I'm gonna use Greek yogurt as well because it's lots of protein and it'll be nice and satiating. I'm also gonna grab some things for toppings to make it look pretty and just to bulk it out a little bit. So I've got some frozen bloobs that I've just got out of the freezer. I've also got these flapjacks, which I have in the cupboard, which I'm just gonna use as a little bit of extra fiber and also to bulk it out a little bit. And obviously you're gonna need something to put it in. Now for the sake of trying to make it look pretty, I've got a choice of 2 different glasses. This is actually a whiskey glass. I think I'm gonna go for this one, even though it is quite big, but it will work. All right, so first up, I'm just going to chop up half of this mango. All right, so we've scooped all that flesh into that bowl. I'm just gonna mush this up with a stick blender. You could just use a fork, but I'm gonna use this for ease. And it really is as simple as that. Now we can start constructing our little yogurt. I'm gonna put some of the mango in the bottom. In fact, let's just put it all in the bottom. Now with the yogurt, sometimes I like to actually mix some protein powder in, which sounds really random, but it actually thickens up the yogurt and gives it a nice flavor. I usually use vanilla protein powder. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about the way it makes it taste. It's just so, so good. And basically just add whatever toppings that you fancy. So I'm just gonna crumble up some of this flapjack. I also diced up a little bit more of the mango that we had from earlier. Add our bloobs. I actually quite like when the blueberries are still a little bit frozen because they have a little bit more of a bite to them. And then just because I had some in my cupboard, I've got some sunflower seeds and some chia seeds as well. And there you have it, a nice filling, quick, easy and tasty breakfast. Okay, so we've started the day strong and we're feeling nice and full and satiated from our breakfast. Now we're gonna move on to lunch. And something else that is really useful and I find really helps me as somebody who loves big portions is being able to eat quite a lot of volume. And the lunch that I'm gonna make is exactly that, but it's also amazing because you can adapt it to whatever you have in your fridge, whoever you're cooking for, and you can take it on the go really, really easily. Because we're all about making lives just that little bit easier for ourselves. So to start off this recipe, we are going to need some rice paper wrappers. I just picked these up from the Asian supermarket. And then essentially you can put whatever you have. So you can just hunt through your fridge. But for me today, I'm going to fill it with lots of different veggies. So I've got the smallest carrot in the world, a red pepper. I have some red cabbage that I had in the fridge already, a cucumber, and some mini gem lettuce. For a source of protein, I'm going to add some tofu, but obviously you don't need to put this in, or you could put some meat in, so chicken or prawns goes really well. Now this one's a little bit more unusual, and to be honest with you, it's just come off the top of my head, but I'm gonna try and crush up some of these noodles and just put them in raw so I get a little bit of a crunch. And then I've just got some parsley as well. So this is everything that we're going to use for the summer rolls. So let's get going. So first things first is we're just going to chop up all of our vegetables so they're nice thin sticks. Okay, now we've got the veggies done, we're gonna deal with the tofu, and I'm going to fry this and make it a little bit more crispy and tasty. So to do that, we're gonna need some plain flour and some corn flour, and then just some simple spices. So we're going to have to coat the tofu. So first of all, we're gonna mix 1 tablespoon of flour with 1 tablespoon of corn flour. Gonna add a decent amount of salt, and let's chuck some chili flakes in, why not? So just gonna stir that up, and then we're gonna chop our drained tofu up into slices, just like the vegetables, and dip it in here. Okay, so we're just going to chuck that in there, and then just toss it about so that they're evenly coated. It doesn't matter if you get mess everywhere. And then we're gonna pop them in the fry pan. Obviously you can use whatever spices you want on these. I know we've already put some chili flakes in, but I'm gonna add a little bit of chili powder because quite frankly, I am obsessed with anything spicy at the moment. So we're gonna mix that in, and then we're gonna grab our fry pan. So first of all, we're gonna add a little bit of oil to a frying pan, and we're just gonna get that nice and hot. So you probably want it on a medium to high heat. So, oops. All right, so I totally did not mean to throw all that flour in, but anyway, here we are. Let's just try and scoop some of that out because we don't need that. And we're just gonna fry those off until they're nice and crispy on the outside. To start with for our sauce, we're gonna take a tablespoon of fish sauce, about a tablespoon of sugar, about half a tablespoon of mirin. I'm gonna add a good glug of lime juice. I know I said I've been loving chili, so we're actually gonna add some bird's eye chili, which are quite spicy. Then a good amount of garlic and some chopped ginger. And then finally about 1/4 cup of water. And then we're just gonna stir that together, give it a little taste. Oof, that's got some kick to it, which is perfect. But as you can see, it's a pretty clear sauce. So that is our dipping sauce done. Now we need to assemble. So to assemble, we're going to need our rice paper wrappers. We're then gonna need a bowl of hot water. And I'm actually just going to assemble them on the work surface. So I'm gonna put my veggies that I'm gonna use there. So then simply what we're gonna do is place one of these rice paper sheets inside the warm water for around 5 seconds. And once it starts to get soft, we can take it out, lay it down on the surface that we're using. So you can use a chopping board or whatever you like. And then we're gonna start building. So simply, we're just going to put in whatever veggies that we want. And this is the great thing about this meal is that you can mix and match. So if you have fussy eaters or you're cooking for different people like your family and they all have different needs or different tastes, then you can put whatever you want in here. You can make them more meaty, you can make them more veggie, you can add sauce, you don't have to. And add some of those crispy noodle bits that I just broke off those noodles. Add some herbs. And then when you're ready, you're simply going to turn the ends over and then roll it up. And it sticks to itself, and that is done. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to eat these. Right, I'm gonna make these up and then I will reconvene with you once they're all done. All right, so now we've got our delicious summer rolls ready. All I'm gonna do is serve them by chopping them in half and then placing them in a bowl so we can see all that delicious goodness pointing out at us and all the beautiful color. And then placing some of the lettuce leaves in the middle for no other reason than it just looks pretty and we want our food to look pretty too. And then I'm gonna place our little dipping bowl in the middle of that. And then we're simply gonna add some of our dipping sauce in the middle, add some sesame seeds, and then finally a little bit of grated carrot. And there you have it, our summer spring rolls with dipping sauce. Okay, so on any given days, I'm pretty much having 3 or 4 knacks, as my niece would call it. But snacks are where it's at for me. I am a snacker. I would happily graze all day and not have any meals. I just love snacking. And one thing that always really helped me was having something that was prepared that you really, really enjoy. And for me, as I've gotten older, I've really grown to love soup. I know it sounds rogue, but I love soup. And there are so many different varieties. So if you like something that's a little bit sweeter or a little bit more wintry, then you can go for that vibe. If you want something that's a little bit more broth-like, then you can go for that. And for me, I have been obsessed with tom yum soup and miso soup and basically any Asian broth. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know how much I love pho and ramen, but as a snack, tom yum soup or miso soup is amazing. So I've started making big batches of tom yum soup and just having it in my fridge, and then I can just heat it up as I go. It's super easy to make. Once you have some basic ingredients, it's really, really cheap and so easy to take on the go as well. Okay, so tom yum soup is something that I have been obsessed with recently, so I'm gonna make my own. Now for the broth, we're gonna start with some Thai red curry paste, some chopped garlic, some ginger again, some lemongrass paste, and then you can use chicken or fish stock, whichever you prefer, and then some classic bird's eye chili. You can use fresh ones. Honestly, the dried ones work just as well. And then in terms of the stuff that goes in the soup, it's actually really simple. Again, feel free to just do what you want, but I'm gonna add in a chopped onion, a tomato, which is gonna be chopped up in 2/4. I'm gonna add some shiitake mushrooms because, oh my gosh, I am obsessed. And then some broccoli as well. There's always the option to add a tablespoon of sugar if you prefer the taste. And then you're gonna need some lime juice and some fish sauce as well. So to start with, we're gonna add a teaspoon of the Thai red chili sauce. We're adding about 3 cloves worth of garlic. And of course, I've had to move you because you steamed up, but I'm gonna add 1 big heaped teaspoon of the lemongrass. Oh, it smells so good already. Once that's become fragrant, we're gonna add our stock, and then we're gonna put about 1 litre of water in there as well. I'm gonna also add our chili in as well. I'm gonna put about 1 teaspoon worth in, but these bird's eye chilies are quite spicy, so it's always better to err on the side of caution. You can always add more later. I'm just gonna bring that to the boil, and then once it's boiling, I'm gonna bring it down to a simmer, and I'm just gonna prepare the vegetables that are gonna go inside it. So while the soup's been boiling away, I've prepared all my vegetables. Basically, I've just cut them roughly into quarters. So I've got the onion, the tomato, the broccoli, and the shiitake mushrooms, and I'm just gonna throw those in. I'm gonna add around 3 tablespoons of lime juice and 3 tablespoons of fish sauce. Instead of lime juice, you can use kaffir lime leaves, but I couldn't find any, so I just thought I would substitute those. And then basically, I'm just gonna leave this to simmer for about 20 minutes, and our soup will be done. That is our tom yum soup done. It's super quick and easy. It tastes so nice. Especially when it's cold, it's so nice to have something that's just warm and wholesome. Of course, I'm gonna add some coriander. Obviously, you can just use a spoon, but I like to use one of these spoons. And just because it's more about the experience, I also use some chopsticks as well. And there we have it, a delicious, tasty soup. All right, so it is dinner time, and we're still gonna be looking at volume and protein, and also being able to adapt meals for whoever you're cooking for. If you're cooking for a partner or a family member or your children who don't have the same goals as you, we want meals that you can still partake in and you can just adapt easily to whoever's eating them. Another thing that you'll notice in dinner is the use of fish, and I feel like fish is really, really underrated. I'll probably talk a little bit more about it while we're cooking, but whitefish is so underrated. You can buy it from the freezer section, throw it in your freezer, and it's just there if you ever need it. You can make so many different meals with it, and not only that, but it's fairly low in calories for the amount of protein that it has, which is a total win-win when we're in a calorie deficit. But not only that, it tastes amazing and it's really satiating. I swear I'm not sponsored by the fish industry, I just think it's really underrated. So dinner is another one of those recipes where you really can just make it whatever you like, and you can bulk it out if you want, you can use whatever you have in your fridge. But today I'm gonna make it nice and simple. If it was up to me, I would happily just eat vegetables because I love them so much. So mine's gonna be quite vegetable heavy, but I am gonna have a source of protein, which is gonna be this whitefish here. So in terms of ingredients, we're gonna need about 500 grams of whitefish, whatever vegetables you want. I'm gonna make them into little lettuce cups as they're serving. But alternatively, I would make them into some type of mini taco with some mini tortillas. Then I'm gonna grab whatever veggies I'm gonna serve in those little cups, a little bit of dressing. I've got some coriander because it just goes so well with fish. And then in terms of the fish, we're actually gonna make it into some fish cakes. So I'm gonna use some lemongrass, some ginger, of course garlic, and my other obsession in life, chili. So this recipe is super easy. I'm gonna take about half of the fish. I'm just gonna chop it up super fine. So I'm actually just gonna keep slicing it until it almost becomes soft and mushy, and I'm gonna leave the other parts quite chunky. What I really, really love, and I think is underrated about whitefish, is that it is super, super high in protein, but it's also relatively low in calories. So you get a good amount of bang for your buck, plus it's really satiating and filling. But the other thing is that you can buy it in bulk in the freezer section, which means it doesn't go off. You can buy it for a pretty cost-effective price. And that means it is super, super versatile as well. You can make tray bakes with it, you can fry it, you can bake it, whatever you want. There's just so many different options. Now I've chopped that up, I'm just gonna break these bigger bits into just slightly smaller chunks. Still want to keep them rather chunky. And then I'm gonna add in my chopped fish as well. I'm then gonna get a rather large handful of coriander, and I'm gonna chop that up. Coriander is something that's really grown on me recently. I used to absolutely hate it, and now I'm obsessed. I'm having it on everything. So that is perfect. We just want it roughly chopped. We're gonna add that into the bowl. Awesome, and then to that bowl, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of lemongrass, some chopped ginger, decent amount of garlic, because who doesn't love garlic? And then some chili. And then finally, a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. And then simply we're just gonna mix that all together and try to form some little patties out of it. I've made quite a small amount. This will probably make 2 or 3 because I'm just gonna make 1 portion. But obviously you can just make it work for you. So to make the patties, I'm literally just gonna form them in my hand like this. Am I the messiest cook ever? I think I might be. So there's our patties. Now it's time to cook them. So as we did before, we're gonna add a little bit of oil. Right, so while I was frying up my fish, I got ready all the vegetables that I need for my dinner. The cups are gonna be made out of these little mini gem lettuce leaves, so I've got some of those. I've got my cucumber, I've got my tomato, I cut up some spring onion, and also some bird's eye chili. So it's imperative that I don't forget not to touch my eyes. And essentially, I'm just gonna start building these bad boys. So as I said, you can literally put anything in here. I would maybe put some fried sweet corn or some peas. I love peas at the moment. I don't know what it is, there's something about them. You could put some capsicum in here, really whatever takes your fancy. And like I said, you can actually just make these into some mini tortillas instead, and you could have some guacamole and you can make it more of a Mexican vibe. Really, the world is your oyster. So again, if you're cooking for other people and they want something a bit more substantial and you're just looking for something a little bit lighter, you can add more vegetables, you could add some fats like the guacamole, just make it whatever you fancy. This could also make a really good snack as well if you fancied it. Now with my fish cake, I actually decided now to chop it all up so it's now mushy, so that it fits in my little lettuce cups nicely. Of course, you can just leave it chunky if you want it more burger style, but I'm gonna use it like this. And then it's almost like taco meat, and my gosh, does this smell good. I'm just going to place a handful of the fish in each one. I think we've got room for 1 more here. And I've just got a little bit of chili sauce. You could make your own, but I'm just gonna use shop bought, and I'm just gonna put a tiny little bit on each one just to give it some flavor. Oops, this is pretty spicy, so I don't want to go too heavy-handed. And then we're just gonna make it look pretty with some seasoning, a little bit more coriander, and then just to bring some of that heat down, I'm gonna add a little bit of salsa. And there we have it, our Asian-inspired fish lettuce cups. Like I said, you can make this whatever you want, so if you want to bulk it out a little bit more, then you can feel free to do so. Protein in this is deceivingly filling, which is amazing, and you get a lot of volume as well, which is awesome. And that brings us to the best part of the day, dessert time. Now there's one thing that I talk about in all my videos that really helped me when I was losing weight, because I used to love dessert and I would eat quite a lot, which was probably way too much. I know it sounds so mundane, it sounds really boring, but there are some incredible flavors of teas out there, and they can be really satisfying to have after dinner. Not only do they help you digest your food a little bit and relax ready for bed, but they just taste so good. Honestly, I'm a coffee lover, and if I can get into herbal tea, I think anyone can. But that being said, tea does not always cut the mustard, and something that I really liked to get into the habit of was, rather than just thinking what do I want to eat, I was thinking about what I was craving or what I really wanted to taste. And a lot of the time I'm craving something salty but also sweet at the same time. So then I'd be having multiple different snacks, which is totally fine. But when I started to tune into those cravings and then create snacks specifically for those, it really helped in just managing those cravings and also how much I was eating in total. So let's go and make a little dessert. All right, so the last thing for today is going to be our dessert, which is going to be something sweet and something a little bit bitter, which is going to be this 85% dark chocolate. I love dark chocolate. I even like 100%. I really like that super strong taste. And the only other thing that you're gonna need is some salt. So first up, I'm gonna throw this in the microwave to melt. Then next up, I'm actually gonna slice this apple into discs. And then very carefully, I've got my melted chocolate. I'm just gonna pop that on the side. And then simply I'm gonna take my disc of apple and I'm gonna dip it in, just enough that it coats just a little bit of the apple. And then I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt on that as well. And now they've all got their little hats on, we're gonna just pop it in the fridge for them to cool down. And there you have it, a really quick, easy and cheap dessert that's going to satisfy my cravings for something salty, something a little bit sweet, and of course a little bit of chocolate too. All right guys, I hope you've enjoyed that video and it's given you some meal ideas. Let me know down below if you do try any. I'd love to see that you've tried the recipes and that you've enjoyed them as well. Or share any of your own. I also love to hear some more ideas. But otherwise, I hope you have a beautiful day and I will see you guys in the next video.